My wife's mother had no idea I was a Hell's Angel. She called the cops on me, then this. The patrol car's lights painted the suburban driveway in stuttering blue and red, and I stood there with my hands visible, leather creaking in the September wind, watching my mother-in-law's face through the living room window, pale, triumphant, terrified. Behind me, my Harley still ticked with heat, the engine settling after 300 miles of highway. On my back, beneath the jacket I'd worn to keep the peace, the patch waited like a secret I'd carried for 5 years, hidden from Sunday dinners and birthday parties, buried under polo shirts and forced smiles, silent as a promise I'd made to the woman I loved. The cop's hand rested on his belt, his eyes moving from my face to the motorcycle to the pristine lawn where a garden gnome smiled like nothing had shattered. I could hear Sarah's mother shouting through the glass, her words muffled but sharp. "That's him! I told you he was dangerous!" And I thought about the last thing my wife said before she drove ahead with our daughter. "Just be yourself, Dalton. She'll come around." But myself wore red and white. Myself had brothers who'd bleed for the patch. Myself was everything this woman feared when she looked at the evening news and clutched her pearls. The second cop approached from the passenger side, younger, nervous. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Sarah probably, wondering why I hadn't arrived. The engine's tick, tick, tick counted seconds like a timer on everything I'd built. The marriage, the trust, the careful construction of a life that straddled 2 worlds. And now, the lights, the lawn, the accusations bleeding through suburban windows. Now the choice I'd avoided for half a decade, standing in driveway gravel with my hands where they could see them, waiting for the moment when silence wouldn't be enough. Wait, before the next ride begins, if this story already hit you right in the chest, tell us where you're watching from. To ride with the Brotherhood through the next promise, loss, or redemption, subscribe and join the club. Engines up, back to the road. The older cop, a sergeant with gray threading his temples, stepped closer. His nameplate read Morrison. "Sir, we got a call about a disturbance. Can you tell me what's going on here?" I kept my voice level, calm. "No disturbance, officer. I'm visiting family. That's my mother-in-law." I nodded toward the window where Eleanor Pritchard stood with her phone still pressed to her ear, watching like she'd cornered something wild. Morrison's eyes flicked to the Harley, taking in the chrome, the custom paint, the leather saddlebags. "She says you threatened her, says she doesn't know you, and you showed up making demands?" "I married her daughter 5 years ago," I said. "We have a 3-year-old. Sarah drove up yesterday with Emma. I rode up today after work." I pulled out my phone slowly, showing him the screen. "I can call my wife right now. She's inside." The younger cop circled to my bike, looking it over with the careful attention of someone trained to spot contraband. I knew what he was searching for, any excuse, any reason to escalate this beyond a misunderstanding. My jacket was zipped, the patch hidden. I'd promised Sarah I'd introduce the club slowly, carefully, after Eleanor got to know me first. 5 years of carefully timed visits, of leaving the bike at home and driving Sarah's sedan, of becoming Dalton the insurance adjuster instead of Diesel from the Iron Riders. But Sarah, my bike had broken down outside Toledo. The shop couldn't get the part until Monday, and Sarah had already left with Emma, and Eleanor's 70th birthday was today, and I'd promised to be there. So I'd ridden my backup, the Harley I kept at the clubhouse, the one that still carried the scent of highway and brotherhood. "Sarah," Morrison called toward the house. "Sarah Pritchard." "Chen," I corrected quietly. "Sarah Chen." She kept her name. The front door opened. Sarah emerged in the yellow dress she'd bought for her mother's party, her black hair pulled back, her face a mask of careful control I recognized from difficult conversations. Behind her, Eleanor stood in the doorway, and behind Eleanor, I could see other faces, Aunts, uncles, the whole extended Pritchard clan gathered for cake and celebration. "Officer Morrison," Sarah said, her voice carrying the professional courtesy of her work as a public defender. She knew half the cops in this county. "There's been a misunderstanding. This is my husband, Dalton Chen." Morrison's posture shifted slightly. "Ma'am, your mother called 911. Said an unknown man showed up making threats." Sarah's jaw tightened. She looked past the cops to her mother. "Mom, this is Dalton. You've met him at least a dozen times." Eleanor's face flushed. Not like that." She gestured at me, at the bike, at the leather, and the road dust, and everything her daughter had kept carefully separate from family gatherings. "You said he worked in insurance. You said he drove a Camry." "He does work in insurance," Sarah said, her voice tight. "And that Camry's in the shop. Mom, call off the police. This is embarrassing." But Eleanor's hand was shaking, and I saw something in her face that went beyond simple fear of leather and motorcycles. She looked at me like I'd betrayed her, like Sarah had betrayed her, like the man she'd smiled at politely over Christmas ham had been replaced by something dangerous. Morrison looked between us. "Sir, can I see some ID?" I handed over my license. He studied it, comparing the photo to my face, then checking something on his radio. The younger cop had moved back from my bike, finding nothing actionable, but his hand still rested near his weapon. In the window, Emma's face appeared. My daughter, 3 years old, pressed against the glass with her grandmother's hands on her shoulders, pulling her back. "Mr.
Chen," Morrison said, handing back my license, "everything checks out. But if the homeowner doesn't want you on the property—" "She's my mother-in-law," I said, frustration bleeding through. "We drove 14 hours for her birthday." "I know, sir, but legally—" "Dalton's staying," Sarah said, her voice sharp now, the tone she used in courtrooms. "Mom, either he's welcome here or Emma and I are leaving. Your choice." The silence stretched like highway before dawn. Eleanor's face worked through emotions. Anger, fear, confusion, pride. Behind her, I saw Sarah's Aunt Deborah whisper something, and suddenly, the whole family seemed to be watching this scene play out on the lawn. The cops, the motorcycle, the son-in-law revealed. "I don't understand," Eleanor said finally, her voice small. "Sarah, you said he was safe. You said he was normal." Something in those words cut deeper than accusations. I watched my wife's face close, watched her rebuild walls I'd helped her tear down over 5 years together. When we'd met, she'd been defending a club member on a bullshit charge, and I'd been there for support, and she'd looked past the leather to see who I actually was. We'd built something real, a life where I could ride on weekends and come home to story time, where the Brotherhood knew about Emma's birthday and sent cards, where I could be both Diesel and Dalton without choosing. But standing here, watching Eleanor clutch my daughter, I saw how fragile that balance was, how easily fear could fracture everything. Morrison cleared his throat. "Folks, I'm going to let you sort this out as a family. But, Mrs. Pritchard, if you want to press trespassing charges—" "No," Sarah said, "she doesn't." It wasn't a question. Eleanor's mouth opened, closed. She looked at the cops like they were supposed to solve this for her, supposed to remove the problem and restore her daughter's life to something she understood.
But Morrison was already backing toward his patrol car, happy to escape family drama. "Ma'am," he said to Eleanor, "you called 911. We responded, but there's no crime here. If you have a family dispute, I suggest you work it out inside." He touched his hat, nodded to me. "Mr. Chen, sorry for the confusion." The patrol cars pulled away, leaving us in the driveway with the September sun dropping behind the maple trees and the neighborhood curtains twitching. Sarah stood between her mother and me, literally and figuratively, her hands clenched at her sides. "Inside," she said, "all of us, now." But Eleanor didn't move. She just stared at me, at the motorcycle, at the life her daughter had apparently been hiding. "What are you?" she whispered. I met her eyes. "I'm the man who loves your daughter, who reads Emma stories every night, who fixed your porch railing last summer without being asked." I unzipped my jacket slowly, letting her see the truth I'd been hiding. The patch lay across my back. Red and white, the colors that meant brotherhood, that meant loyalty, that meant a life Eleanor had only seen in news stories about violence and crime. "And I'm an Iron Rider," I said. "Road captain, 7 years in the club. And I've kept that from you because Sarah asked me to, because she wanted you to know me first. But that's who I am, Eleanor, both things. And if you can't accept that, then you're choosing to lose your daughter and granddaughter over a patch." Sarah's hand found mine. She squeezed once. Support, solidarity, love. Eleanor looked at our joined hands, then at Emma's face in the window, then at the patch on my back. Her mouth trembled. "Inside," she said, finally, her voice hoarse. "But we're talking about this. All of it." She turned and walked into the house, her shoulders rigid with anger and fear and something else. Maybe the recognition that this moment had been coming for 5 years, building like pressure behind a dam, and now the break had come and there was no putting it back. Sarah and I followed, leaving my bike in the driveway like a question no one had answered. The living room fell silent when we entered. 20 pairs of eyes tracked me across the carpet. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all around a birthday cake that said "Happy 70th, Eleanor" in pink frosting. Emma sat on the couch between Sarah's Aunt Deborah and Uncle Richard, her small face confused but brightening when she saw me. "Daddy!" She started to climb down, but Deborah's hand held her shoulder. "Emma, stay there, honey," Eleanor said, her voice strained. Sarah's hand tightened on mine. "Mom, she's his daughter. Don't do this." But Eleanor was already explaining, her words tumbling out to the assembled family like she needed witnesses, needed validation that her fear was justified. "He's in a gang, a motorcycle gang. Sarah's been lying to us for 5 years, bringing him to our home, to family events, and he's one of them." Uncle Richard stood, a big man with a contractor's build and a veteran's posture. "Hold on, Eleanor. What exactly are we talking about here?" "The Hells Angels," Eleanor said, pointing at my chest like the patch was a weapon. Or whatever they call themselves. Those people who sell drugs and hurt people. "The Iron Riders," I corrected quietly. "And we're not the Hells Angels. Different club entirely. We're not a gang. We're a motorcycle club. There's a difference." "Is there?" Eleanor's voice cracked. "You wear those patches. You ride in packs. We ride together, yes. We're brothers. We support each other. We raise money for veterans charities. We help each other from moving houses to fighting cancer." "Last year, we raised $40,000 for the Children's Hospital. We're not criminals, Eleanor. We're just men who love motorcycles and believe in loyalty." Aunt Deborah spoke up, her voice careful. "Dalton, I've met you at 3 family events. You've always been polite, kind with Emma. But Eleanor's fear isn't unfounded. We see news stories." "About 1%ers," I said. "Outlaw clubs. The Iron Riders are a traditional club. We follow the law. We have doctors, lawyers, teachers in our chapter. We have a code, yes, but it's about brotherhood and respect, not crime." "Then why hide it?" Eleanor demanded. "If it's so innocent, why did my daughter lie to me for 5 years?" Sarah's voice was quiet, controlled. "Because of this, Mom. Because I knew you'd react exactly like this. Because I wanted you to know Dalton first, to see him as a person before you saw the leather. And it worked. You liked him. You told me last Christmas that you were glad I'd found someone stable and kind. Nothing's changed except now you know about the motorcycle club." "Everything's changed," Eleanor whispered. "You lied to me, Sarah, for years." "I protected our relationship," Sarah said. "I protected my daughter from your judgment. Because I knew you'd do this. You'd reduce him to a stereotype instead of seeing who he actually is. The room settled into uncomfortable silence. Emma's small voice broke it. "Daddy, why is Grandma mad?" I crossed the room, and this time Deborah let me. I knelt beside my daughter, touching her cheek. "Grandma's not mad, sweetheart. She's just surprised. Sometimes grown-ups get surprised and need time to understand things." "Are you in trouble?" Emma's eyes were wide, concerned in the way only a 3-year-old's can be, without judgment or context. "No, baby, everything's okay." Eleanor made a sound, half sob, half laugh. "Everything's okay? There were police in my driveway because I called them on my own son-in-law. How is that okay?" I stood, facing her.
You called them because you were scared, because you saw something you didn't understand and you reacted to protect yourself and your family. I get that, Eleanor. I really do. But now you need to see past the fear and recognize that I'm the same person I was yesterday, last month, last Christmas. The patch doesn't change who I am. It's just part of my life you didn't know about. Uncle Richard stepped closer, studying me with a veteran's assessment. "What branch?" The question threw me. "Sir?" "Military. What branch did you serve?" "Marines. 2 tours in Iraq. Infantry." His expression shifted slightly, some calculation rebalancing. "That where you learned about brotherhood?" "That's where I learned what it costs," I said. "The club, it's different, but the principles are the same. Loyalty, duty, being there when your brothers need you." Richard nodded slowly, then looked at Eleanor. "He's not what you think, El. I've seen gang members. This isn't that." But Eleanor wasn't convinced. She sank into her chair, her 70 years suddenly visible in the lines of her face, the tremor in her hands. "I don't know what to think anymore. I thought I knew my daughter's life. I thought I understood who she married. And now—" Sarah moved to her mother's side, kneeling beside the chair. "Mom, you do know. You know Dalton loves me. You know he's a good father. You know he fixed your railing and helped Richard move furniture and played piano at Emma's birthday. The club is just one part of his life. It doesn't define him." "Then why the secrecy?" Eleanor's eyes glistened. "If it's not shameful, why hide it?" "Because I was a coward," I said. The room's attention swung back to me. "Sarah wanted to tell you. I'm the one who asked her to wait. Because I was afraid of exactly this, that you'd see the patch and stop seeing me. That you'd look at your granddaughter and worry instead of love. I've been a writer for 7 years, but I've only been your son-in-law for 5. And I wanted those 5 years to mean something before I added this complication." Eleanor wiped her eyes. "Complication? That's a polite word for it." "Mom," Sarah said softly, "this is who I chose, both parts. The insurance adjuster who helps people rebuild after disasters, and the road captain who rides with his brothers on weekends. I fell in love with a complete person, not an edited version. And I need you to just try to see what I see." The cake sat untouched on the table, its candles unlit. Emma had climbed down from the couch and now stood beside me, her small hand finding mine. The family watched, waiting to see how this would resolve, whether Eleanor would choose fear or trust. Finally, Eleanor spoke, her voice barely audible. "I need time. It's too much right now." Sarah's face fell, but she nodded. "Okay, how much time?" "I don't know. Not tonight. I can't celebrate with all of this hanging over us." Eleanor looked at the cake, at the family gathered for her birthday, at the wreckage of what should have been a simple celebration. "Maybe everyone should go home. We'll try again another time." "Mom, it's your 70th birthday." "I know what it is," Eleanor snapped. Then, softer, "I know, but I can't pretend everything's fine. I can't blow out candles and smile for pictures when I don't even know who's in the room with me anymore." The words landed like stones.
Sarah stood, her professional mask cracking. "You know exactly who's here. Your daughter, your granddaughter, the man we've been bringing to family events for 5 years. Nothing about that has changed." "Everything's changed," Eleanor repeated, "and I need time to figure out what that means." I touched Sarah's arm. "Let's go. We'll get a hotel." "No," Sarah said. "We drove 14 hours. Emma's exhausted. We're staying." "Not here, you're not," Eleanor said, her voice hardening. "I'm sorry, Sarah, but I can't have you under my roof tonight. Not with all of this."
The room froze. Even the family members who'd been silent gasped at that. Deborah stood, her face shocked. "Eleanor, you can't be serious. They're family." "Are they?" Eleanor looked at me, at the patch visible beneath my open jacket. "I don't know anymore." Sarah's hand slipped from mine. She picked up Emma, holding our daughter close. "Fine, we'll leave. But Mom, when you're ready to see past your prejudice and fear, you know where to find us. And you'll have to apologize, not just to Dalton, but to me. Because you just chose fear over family, and that's going to cost you." She walked toward the door, Emma confused on her hip. I followed, feeling 20 pairs of eyes on my back, feeling the weight of the patch I'd kept hidden for so long, now exposed and judged. At the door, Sarah turned back. "Happy birthday, Mom. I hope your 70th year brings you wisdom. You're going to need it." We left Eleanor sitting in her chair, surrounded by family and untouched cake, alone with her fear and her choices. The hotel room was clean but generic. 2 double beds, a window overlooking the parking lot, the hum of the air conditioner filling the silence. Emma fell asleep quickly, exhausted by the drama she didn't fully understand. Sarah sat by the window, still in her yellow dress, staring at the parking lot where my Harley sat under a streetlight. "I'm sorry," I said finally. "I should have told her years ago. This is my fault." Sarah didn't turn from the window. "It's both our faults. We both chose the lie. We both thought we could control how she found out." "I thought I was protecting you." "I know. I thought I was protecting her. Turns out we just delayed the inevitable." Her voice was hollow, tired. "She called the cops on you, Dalton. My mother called 911 because she saw you in leather." She was scared. She was prejudiced. Sarah finally looked at me, her eyes red. "I've spent my career defending people against that kind of snap judgment. And my own mother just proved she's no different than every fearful suburban stereotype I fought against." I sat on the bed near the window, close enough to touch her, but giving her space. She's 70 years old. She grew up in a different world. All she knows about motorcycle clubs comes from movies and news reports. That's not an excuse. I'm not excusing it. I'm explaining it. She reacted out of fear and ignorance. But Sarah, she's also your mother. She loves you. She loves Emma. This isn't unfixable." Sarah laughed bitterly. "She kicked us out on her birthday because you ride a motorcycle and wear a patch? Because she's terrified and confused and felt betrayed. All of those are things we can address. Give her time." "How much time?" "Emma asks about Grandma every week. She loves those visits. And now what do I tell her? That Grandma doesn't want to see us because Daddy's in a club?" The question hung in the air. Emma stirred in her sleep, one arm flung over her stuffed rabbit. She looked so peaceful, so innocent, unaware that her family had fractured tonight over something she couldn't understand. "We tell her the truth," I said. "In a way she can understand. We tell her that sometimes grown-ups disagree, and they need time to work it out. And we show her that we love her no matter what." Sarah's shoulders shook. I moved to her, wrapping my arms around her from behind, and she leaned into me, finally letting the tears come. "I wanted her to love you the way I love you, all of you.
not just the parts that fit her worldview. I know, baby, I know. And instead, she called the police. She looked at you like you were dangerous. I am dangerous, I said softly, to anyone who threatens my family, to anyone who hurts people I care about. That's what the club means, that I have 40 brothers who would show up at 3 in the morning if I called. That's powerful, and it can be scary if you don't understand it, but it's also beautiful.
It's also what got me through losing battle buddies in Iraq. It's also what makes me a better father because I understand loyalty and commitment and sacrifice. Sarah turned in my arms, her face inches from mine. She has to see that. She has to understand. She will, but not tonight. Tonight she's sitting in her house, probably crying, probably talking to your aunt about what happened, probably terrified she just lost her daughter and granddaughter forever. And tomorrow, or the next day, or next week, she's going to reach out. Because fear is strong, but love is stronger. And she loves you, Sarah. That's not in question. How can you be so calm about this? I smiled sadly. Because I've been through worse. Because I've sat with brothers in hospice and at funerals and in jail cells waiting for bullshit charges to get dropped. This is bad, but it's not the worst thing that could happen. The worst thing would be if I'd lost you tonight. If you'd looked at me standing in that driveway with the cops and decided your mother was right. Sarah kissed me, fierce and desperate. Never. I know who you are. I've always known. Then we'll get through this, together. And Eleanor will come around or she won't. But either way, we're solid. Our family is solid. Emma has 2 parents who love her and an extended club family who'd tear down mountains for her. That's more than most kids get. We held each other as the streetlight painted shadows on the hotel walls, as our daughter slept and the world kept turning. Outside, my Harley sat like a monument to the truth we'd finally stopped hiding, chrome and steel, and the weight of brotherhood that no fear could erase. 3 days passed. We stayed in the hotel, waiting for Eleanor to reach out, but the phone stayed silent. Sarah worked remotely, taking conference calls in the bathroom while Emma watched cartoons. I took Emma to a park, to an ice cream shop, trying to keep her world normal while the adult world fractured. On the 4th day, my phone rang. Not Eleanor, Hawk, the club president. "Brother," his gravelly voice filled my ear. "Heard you had some excitement in Ohio." I stepped onto the hotel balcony, leaving Sarah and Emma inside. Word travels fast. You know how it is. Morrison's cousin rides with the Columbus chapter. Story made the rounds. You good? Complicated. Mother-in-law found out about the patch in the worst possible way. Hawk was quiet for a moment. Need the brotherhood? It was a simple question with layers of meaning. Need backup? Need brothers to ride up and show solidarity? Need the weight of the club behind me? It was tempting to have 40 Harleys roll into Eleanor's quiet suburb, to show her that the club wasn't what she feared, that we were men with families and jobs and honor. But I thought about Eleanor's face, about the patrol cars, about fear compounding fear. "No," I said, "this is family business. I need to handle it quiet." "You sure? Because Preach has family up there. Respectable people. Might help to have local voices vouching for the club." I considered it. Preach was our chaplain, a former minister who'd left the pulpit for the road, but kept his faith and his connections. If he had family in the area, people Eleanor might trust. "Let me think on it," I said. "Right now, I'm just waiting." Waiting's hard, especially when family's involved. Hawk paused. "Sarah good?" "She's angry, hurt, but she's with me." "Then you're ahead of the game. The old lady who understands the patch, that's rare, brother. Don't lose sight of that while you're fighting this battle." "I won't." "And Diesel?" Hawk's voice softened. "You did right keeping it quiet all these years, protecting your family. But the patch ain't something to be ashamed of. You earned those colors. Don't let some scared old woman make you forget that." The words settled something in my chest I hadn't realized was loose. Thanks, brother. Anytime. We're here if you need us. One call and half the chapter rolls. Remember that. He hung up. I stood on the balcony, watching traffic pass below, thinking about brotherhood and family and the spaces where those worlds collided. Inside, I heard Emma laugh at something on TV, heard Sarah's quiet response. That was my world, the simple morning, the small moments, the life we'd built. But the club was my world too. The brothers who'd shown up at my wedding, who'd brought gifts when Emma was born, who'd helped me move and fix bikes and deal with the Veterans Administration when my PTSD got bad after Iraq. The club had saved me in ways Eleanor couldn't understand, had given me purpose when I came home broken and angry and lost. I wasn't ashamed. Hawk was right about that. But I also couldn't force Eleanor to understand. That would have to come on its own, if it came at all. Sarah stepped onto the balcony, holding 2 cups of coffee. She handed me one, leaning against the railing beside me. "Hawk?" she asked. Checking in, offering support.
Do we need it?
Not the kind he's offering, but maybe there's another way. I told her about Preach, about the possibility of local connections, people who knew the club and could speak to what we actually were. Sarah sipped her coffee, considering.
It could help. Or it could make things worse. Mom's dug in right now. Every push might just entrench her further.
So what do we do? She was quiet for a long time. Then,
We go home. We give her space. We let her decide if having us in her life is worth getting past her fear.
and if she decides it's not?
Sarah's jaw tightened. Then she loses us. And that's her choice, Dalton. I won't beg my mother to love my family. I won't apologize for who you are or what the club means to you. If she can't accept all of us, then she doesn't get any of us.
It was harsh, but true. I pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. Emma's going to ask.
I know.
And, well, tell her grandma needs time to think about some grown-up things. Well, keep it simple and honest. And if Eleanor comes around, great. If not, Emma's got plenty of people who love her. We stood together, drinking coffee, watching the world move below. Somewhere in this city, Eleanor was making the same calculations, wrestling with the same questions. I hoped she'd choose love over fear. I hoped she'd see past the patch to the man underneath. But hope was all I had. The rest was up to her. We packed that afternoon, loading the truck Sarah had driven up while I secured my bike for the ride home. Emma helped, dragging her small suitcase across the parking lot, chattering about seeing her room again, about the cat we'd left with a neighbor. As I strapped down the last bungee cord, a silver Honda pulled into the lot. My hands stilled. Eleanor's car. Sarah saw it too. She straightened, setting down the bag she'd been loading, her face carefully neutral. Emma, oblivious, kept playing with her suitcase, rolling it in circles. Eleanor emerged slowly, like the movement hurt. She'd aged in 4 days. Or maybe I was just seeing her clearly now, seeing the 70 years she'd tried to hide beneath careful makeup and color-treated hair. She looked small, uncertain, nothing like the righteous figure who'd called the police. "Sarah," she called across the parking lot, "please, can we talk?" Sarah didn't move. "You kicked us out, Mom. Said you didn't know who we were anymore." "I was wrong," Eleanor's voice cracked. "I was scared and wrong, and I haven't slept in 4 days thinking about what I did. You should have thought about it before you called 911. "I know." Eleanor took a few steps closer, her hands twisting together. "I know, and I'm so sorry." Emma finally noticed her grandmother, squealing with delight. "Grandma!" She started to run, but Sarah caught her shoulder. "Wait, honey. Grandma and I need to talk first." Emma's face fell, confused by the tension she could feel but not understand. I lifted her, settling her on my hip. "How about you and I go check out that pool we saw? Let Mommy and Grandma talk." "But I want to see Grandma!" "I know, baby. Soon. Let them have a few minutes." I carried her toward the hotel pool, feeling Eleanor's eyes on the patch across my back, feeling the weight of everything unsaid. Behind me, I heard Sarah's voice, tight with anger. "You have 5 minutes. Talk." I didn't hear Eleanor's response. But at the pool, empty except for us, I set Emma down and watched her marvel at the blue water while I strained to hear the conversation happening in the parking lot. They were too far away, their voices lost to distance and traffic noise. Emma found a leaf, dropping it in the water and watching it float. "Daddy, why is Grandma sad?" "Because she made a mistake, sweetheart, and now she's trying to fix it." "What kind of mistake?" "How did you explain prejudice to a 3-year-old? How did you make sense of fear and judgment without planting seeds of the same?" "Sometimes," I said carefully, "people get scared of things they don't understand. And when they're scared, they make bad choices. Grandma was scared, and she made a choice that hurt Mommy's feelings. Now she's saying sorry." "Oh." Emma considered this, dropping another leaf. "When I'm scared, you give me hugs." "That's right. Did you give Grandma hugs?" I smiled despite everything. "No, baby. I don't think Grandma wants hugs from me right now." "Why not? Hugs make everything better." If only it were that simple. If only fear dissolved with physical comfort. If only understanding came from embrace. But Emma was right in her own way. Connection did heal, if people were brave enough to accept it. 15 minutes passed, then 20. I saw Eleanor's car still in the lot, saw 2 figures standing by Sarah's truck, talking. The conversation was taking longer than 5 minutes, which I took as a good sign. Finally, Sarah appeared at the pool gate. Her eyes were red but dry, her expression complicated. Anger and relief and exhaustion all mixed together. "Grandma wants to talk to you," she said to Emma, "and to Daddy." Emma shrieked, scrambling out of the pool area and running toward Eleanor. I followed more slowly, reading Sarah's face for clues. She gave me a slight nod, not forgiveness, not resolution, but opening, a chance. Eleanor had knelt to Emma's level, accepting her granddaughter's enthusiastic hug with tears streaming down her face. Over Emma's head, her eyes found mine. "Dalton," she said, "I owe you an apology." I stopped a few feet away, giving her space. "You were scared. I understand." "No, you don't. You're being gracious. But what I did was inexcusable." She stood, Emma still clinging to her hand. "I called the police on you. I treated you like a criminal in front of your daughter, in front of my whole family. I let fear override everything I knew about you, everything Sarah had told me about your character, and I'm ashamed." The words were hard for her, each one sounding like it cost something. I respected that, the difficulty, the courage it took to admit wrongness. "I don't expect you to forgive me immediately," Eleanor continued, "but I'm asking for a chance to learn about this part of your life, to understand what the club means to you. Sarah's explained some of it, but I want to hear it from you, if you're willing." I looked at Sarah, who gave another slight nod. Emma was watching us, her small face serious, trying to understand the adult dynamics at play. "I'm willing," I said. "But Eleanor, you need to understand something. The club isn't a phase. It's not something I'm going to outgrow or leave behind. It's part of who I am."
And if you can't accept that, if you're always going to be waiting for me to become someone else, then we're going to keep having this same fight. "I know," she said. Sarah made that very clear. She also made clear that I can lose both of you, or I can choose to trust her judgment. And I choose trust. I choose to believe that my daughter knows what she's doing, that she chose a good man, even if he comes in packaging I don't understand. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't unconditional acceptance, but it was honest, and it was a start. "Okay," I said, "let's talk, really talk, and I'll answer any question you have as honestly as I can." Eleanor nodded, wiping her eyes. "Not here. come back to the house, please. I sent everyone home, and I made a fresh pot of coffee, and we can sit and just talk, like we should have done 4 days ago." Sarah looked at me, the question in her eyes. Was I ready for this? Could I sit in Eleanor's living room and explain the brotherhood, the code, the reasons men choose to ride together? I thought about Hawk's offer, about having the club roll up and demonstrate through presence what we were. But that would be theater, not truth. Truth required vulnerability, required sitting across from someone who feared you and opening up anyway. "Let's go," I said. "But Sarah and Emma come too. We're a family, all 4 of us. However this conversation goes, we're in it together." "Of course," Eleanor said quickly. "I wouldn't have it any other way." We followed her silver Honda back to the house, Emma chattering in the back seat about Grandma's pool and Grandma's cookies and everything she'd missed in 4 days. Sarah drove in silence, her hands tight on the wheel, her jaw set with determination. "Whatever happens," I said quietly, "we're good. You and me and Emma. That's solid." She reached over, squeezing my hand. "I know, but I want this too. I want my daughter to have her grandmother. I want my mother to know the man I married, really know him." So, let's make this work. Well, try. That's all we can do. Eleanor's house looked different in afternoon sunlight, less forbidding, less like enemy territory. The lawn where I'd stood with my hands visible was just grass again, the driveway just concrete. We parked and walked to the door, Emma between us, holding both our hands. Eleanor met us there, ushering us inside to a living room that had been cleaned of party decorations. The untouched birthday cake was gone. In its place, coffee and cookies on the table, seats arranged for conversation. "Emma, honey," Eleanor said, "I set up some toys in the guest room. Would you like to play while the grown-ups talk?" Emma looked to Sarah, who nodded. "I'll come check on you in a few minutes, okay?" "Okay, Mommy." Emma skipped off, resilient in the way only children can be, already past the drama of days before. The 3 of us sat, Eleanor in her chair, Sarah and I on the couch, the coffee table between us like neutral ground. Eleanor poured coffee with shaking hands. "I don't know where to start." "Start with questions," I said, "whatever you actually want to know." She set down the pot, meeting my eyes. "Are you a criminal?" "No." "Have you ever been arrested?" "Once, in college, drunk and disorderly. Charges dropped, nothing since." "Does the club engage in illegal activities?" I chose my words carefully. The Iron Riders are a traditional motorcycle club. We follow the law. We have a code of conduct that explicitly prohibits criminal activity. Are there individual members who've made bad choices? Yes, like any organization. But the club itself doesn't condone or organize crime. "What about the patches?" Sarah said they mean something specific. They do. The bottom rocker says our territory, Ohio River Valley. The top rocker says Iron Riders. The center patch is our logo. These aren't bought, they're earned through prospect period, through proving you understand the code and live by it. My patch means I'm a full member in good standing. The road captain patch, I touched my chest, means I plan and lead our group rides, make sure everyone stays safe on the road. Eleanor absorbed this. And the brotherhood? What does that actually mean? This was harder to explain. I thought about Preach sitting with me in a VA hospital when the nightmares got bad. About Torch helping me rebuild an engine when I couldn't afford shop rates. About the whole chapter showing up when Emma was born, bringing gifts and meals and support. "It means family," I said finally. "Not by blood, but by choice. It means when I call at 3 a.m. because my bike broke down 200 miles from home, someone answers. It means when Sarah was in labor and I was panicking, I had brothers who'd been through it talking me down. It means Emma has 40 uncles who would protect her with their lives. That's brotherhood." "But why motorcycles?" Eleanor asked. "Why not just, I don't know, a bowling league?" I smiled. There's something about riding that's hard to explain if you've never done it. It's freedom and risk and presence all at once. You can't zone out on a bike. You're completely there, completely aware. And when you ride with brothers, when you're moving in formation down the highway, it's like being part of something bigger than yourself. It's meditation and adventure and belonging all mixed together. Sarah added, "When I met Dalton, he was helping with a legal defense for a club member who'd been wrongly accused of assault. The charges were bullshit. Security footage proved it. But this kid didn't have money for a good lawyer. So the club pooled resources, hired me, and supported him through the whole trial. That's when I saw what they actually were. Not criminals, not thugs, just people taking care of each other." Eleanor looked at her daughter. "And you fell in love with him there? At a trial?" "I fell in love with him after," Sarah said. "When he showed up at my office to pay the legal fees, and we talked for 3 hours about everything except motorcycles. He told me about Iraq, about losing friends, about coming home and feeling lost. The club gave him purpose again. How could I ask him to give that up?" "I never asked you to," Eleanor said softly. I wish I'd known." "Would it have mattered?" I asked. "If Sarah had introduced me 5 years ago as a biker, would you have given me a chance?" Eleanor's silence was answer enough. "That's why we waited," Sarah said. "That's why we let you know Dalton first. Because we knew the label would override the person. And we were right." "You were," Eleanor admitted. "And I hate that you were right. I hate that I proved your fears justified." She looked at me. "I pride myself on being open-minded, on not judging people. But the moment I saw you in that leather, saw that patch, I forgot everything I knew about you. I became everything I claimed to oppose." "Fear does that," I said. "Makes us revert to stereotypes, to easy categories. But Eleanor, you're here now. You're asking questions, trying to understand. That takes courage, too." She shook her head. "It's not courage, it's desperation. I sat in this house for 4 days, thinking about never seeing Emma grow up, never being part of your lives. And I realized my fear was costing me everything that matters. So yes, I'm here, but I'm still scared." "Of what?" Sarah asked. "Of losing you to that world. Of Emma getting hurt. Of Dalton getting hurt. I see the news, Sarah. I know what happens to motorcycle clubs sometimes. Shootings, accidents, raids. How can I not be afraid?" "You can be afraid," I said. "Fear is reasonable, but you can't let it control you. Yes, riding motorcycles is more dangerous than driving a car. Yes, there are risks. But I wear gear, I ride smart, and I've been doing this for 7 years without serious injury. As for the club, we're not outlaws, Eleanor." We don't engage in turf wars or criminal enterprises. The biggest risk we face is bad drivers and road hazards, same as any motorcyclist. "And if Emma wants to ride someday?" Sarah and I exchanged a look. We'd talked about this. "When she's old enough to make that choice, we'll make sure she's trained properly," Sarah said. "Safety courses, good gear, supervision. Same way we'd handle her learning to drive a car." Eleanor's face worked through emotions. "I don't like it, any of it, but I accept that it's not my choice to make." She looked at me. "I'm sorry I called the police. I'm sorry I made you feel unwelcome in my home. And I'm sorry I forced you to hide part of yourself for 5 years. That wasn't fair to you or to Sarah." The apology settled something in my chest. "Thank you. And I'm sorry we lied. We should have trusted you sooner." "I didn't give you reason to trust me," Eleanor said. "But I'd like to earn that trust now, if you'll let me try." Sarah leaned forward. "What does that look like, Mom? What are you actually offering?" "Acceptance, or at least the attempt at it. I can't promise I won't worry. I can't promise I'll ever fully understand why you choose this life. But I can promise to see past the leather, to remember who you are underneath. And I can promise to be part of Emma's life, and yours, without judgment or conditions." It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the unconditional acceptance we'd hoped for. But it was real, and it was honest, and it was more than we'd had 4 days ago. "That's enough," I said. That's a good start. Eleanor's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you, both of you, for not giving up on me. Sarah stood, crossing to her mother, pulling her into a hug. Eleanor clung to her daughter, both of them crying now, working through days of fear and anger and hurt. I gave them space, checking on Emma in the guest room, finding her building elaborate structures with blocks. Daddy, are you and Mommy and Grandma happy now? I knelt beside her. Yeah, baby. We're working on it. Good, because Grandma makes the best cookies. I laughed, pulling her into a hug. She does. And you know what? I think she's about to offer us some. Really? Really? We went back to the living room, hand in hand. Eleanor and Sarah had separated, both wiping their eyes, both looking lighter than they had in days. When Eleanor saw Emma, she opened her arms, and my daughter ran to her. Uncomplicated love, bridging the gaps that adults struggle to cross. I believe I promised someone cookies, Eleanor said, her voice still thick with tears but warm now, accepting. Grandma's cookies are the best, Emma declared. Eleanor looked at me over Emma's head, and something passed between us. Understanding, maybe, or at least the beginning of it. She'd never fully comprehend why I rode, why the club mattered, why brotherhood called to some men like a second heartbeat. But she didn't have to comprehend it. She just had to accept that it was part of me, and that her daughter had chosen her anyway. We ate cookies and drank coffee and talked about lighter things. Emma's preschool, Sarah's cases, the garden Eleanor was planning for spring. The tension didn't disappear completely, but it eased, making room for the small moments that built relationships. As we were leaving, Eleanor caught my arm. Dalton, would you tell me more sometime about the club, about what it means to you? I want to understand, even if I don't agree with everything. I'd like that, I said. And Eleanor, if you ever want to see what a club event actually looks like, we're hosting a charity ride next month. Toys for Kids. You're welcome to come. See us in action instead of in theory. Her eyes widened. I think about it. That's all I ask. We drove back to the hotel to collect our things, then started the long journey home. Emma fell asleep in her car seat within 20 minutes, exhausted from emotion and cookies. Sarah drove. I rode beside her, the Harley following in the rearview mirror like a promise kept. Think she'll actually come to the charity ride? Sarah asked. Maybe. Probably not this year, but maybe eventually. I reached over, lacing my fingers through hers. It's a start. A start, Sarah agreed. That's more than I thought we'd get 4 days ago. We drove through the fading afternoon, leaving Ohio behind, carrying with us the fragile peace we'd built from wreckage and fear. It wasn't perfect. It would require work, require patience, require Eleanor to keep choosing trust over fear, and us to keep choosing openness over protection. But family was worth that work. Brotherhood was worth it. And the life we'd built, complicated and messy and real, was worth fighting for. Behind us, my Harley's engine hummed, steady and true. Ahead, the highway stretched long and open, leading home. 6 months passed. Eleanor didn't come to the charity ride, but she sent a donation, a substantial one, accompanied by a note that said simply, "For the children." Small steps. I took them as victories. Emma's 4th birthday came, and Eleanor drove down to our place for the party. The club showed up, Hawk and Preach and Torch and a dozen others, all on their best behavior, all bearing gifts. I watched Eleanor's face as she met them, as she talked to Preach about his ministry background, as she watched Torch gently help Emma unwrap presents. Afterward, as Eleanor was leaving, she pulled me aside. "They're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Criminals? Thugs? People who looked dangerous?" She gestured toward where Preach was helping clean up paper plates. "That man was a minister." "Still is, in his own way. The collar doesn't make the faith." Eleanor nodded slowly. "I'm starting to see that. The patch doesn't make the man either, does it?" "No, ma'am. It just shows which family he's chosen." She looked at Emma, surrounded by her birthday haul, laughing as Sarah tried to assemble a complicated toy. Two families, yours and theirs. All one family, I corrected gently. That's the point. You, Sarah's aunts and uncles, Emma's cousins, the club, Sarah's colleagues, Emma's teachers, we're all part of the same web, all connected through love and choice. The patch is just one thread. Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. Then, I'd like to visit again, for Thanksgiving maybe, and I'd like to bring my sister, Deborah. She's been asking about the club, about what I learned. You're welcome anytime, I said, both of you. She hugged me then, awkward and brief, but genuine. Thank you for being patient with me, for not giving up. Family doesn't give up, I said. That's what brotherhood teaches. You stay, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. She left with tears in her eyes, but they were good tears, healing tears. Sarah watched her drive away, then turned to me with a smile. She's coming around. Slowly, I agreed, but she's trying. That's all we can ask. The club brothers started their bikes, a symphony of engines that made Emma clap with delight. She loved the sound, the rumble, the power. Someday she might want to ride. Someday she might choose her own path, leather or not. But for now, she was 4, and the world was birthday cake and torn wrapping paper, and adults who loved her enough to bridge their differences. Hawk rolled up beside me, his bike idling. Good party, brother. Your girl's something special. She is. And Hawk, thanks for this, for everyone being on their best behavior. He grinned. We're always on our best behavior. But yeah, I get it. First time meeting the grandmother-in-law. Had to make a good impression. Did we? She didn't call the cops this time. I'm calling that progress. I laughed. Fair enough. You good, Diesel? Really good. Because we had your back if you needed it, but you handled this quiet. That took strength. I had Sarah. That made it easier. The right woman always does. He revved his engine. See you at church next Sunday? Wouldn't miss it. He rolled out, the others following in formation, their bikes filling the suburban street with thunder and chrome. The neighbors watched from their windows, some alarmed, some curious, some waving. Let them watch, I thought. Let them see that brotherhood looked like men in leather leaving a 4-year-old's birthday party, carrying home plastic goodie bags and wearing smiles. Sarah slipped her hand into mine. Think the neighbors will complain? Probably, but Emma loved it, so I don't care. Good answer. We went inside, where Emma was already sorting her presents into categories only she understood. The house smelled like cake and coffee, like family and celebration. My patch hung on the coat rack beside Sarah's blazer, beside Emma's tiny denim jacket with the Iron Riders mini patch I'd had made for her birthday. This was the life we'd built, complicated and messy and real. Eleanor was learning to see it, learning to accept that her daughter had chosen a man who lived in both worlds. It wasn't easy. It wasn't what she'd wanted for Sarah. But it was true, and it was ours, and it was worth every difficult conversation, every patient explanation, every small step toward understanding. That night, after Emma was asleep and Sarah was reading in bed, I stood in the garage, looking at my Harley. The bike that had started all this, the one that had broken down in Toledo and forced the truth into the open. I should probably thank it, in a way. The breakdown had been a disaster, but it had also been a catalyst, forcing conversations we'd avoided, truths we'd hidden, choices we'd delayed. Sarah appeared in the doorway, wrapped in my old Marine Corps sweatshirt. Thinking deep thoughts? Just grateful. For the bike, for all of it. The breakdown, the cops, the fight with Eleanor, even the hotel room and the tears, it was all worth it to get here. She came to me, wrapping her arms around my waist, pressing her cheek against the patch on my back. We're going to be okay, aren't we? Better than okay, I promised. We're going to be great. And we were. Not perfect, families never are, but real and honest and built on truth instead of comfortable lies. Eleanor visited twice more that year, each visit easier than the last. She met more of the club, heard more stories, slowly built a picture of what brotherhood actually meant instead of what she'd feared. On Emma's 5th birthday, Eleanor asked if she could ride with us on the charity toy run. Not on a bike, she wasn't ready for that, but in the support vehicle that followed the pack, carrying supplies and filming the event for the club's website. She rode all day, watching 40 motorcycles carry hundreds of toys to children's hospitals, watching the club interact with kids and nurses and parents, watching me lead the formation, my road captain Patch catching the sun. That night, she called Sarah. I heard the conversation from the kitchen where I was cleaning Emma's birthday dishes. "I was wrong," Eleanor said, her voice crackling through the speakerphone. "About all of it. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it." "You're seeing it now," Sarah replied. "That's what matters." "Those men today, they were so gentle with the children, so respectful. And the way they talked about the club, about what it means to them." Eleanor's voice caught. "I spent so long being afraid of what they might be that I couldn't see what they actually are." "And what are they, Mom?" "Brothers, family, men who choose to stand together. Dalton was right. The patch doesn't make the man earns the patch. And your husband, he's earned everything he has." Sarah's eyes found mine across the kitchen. She smiled, tears on her cheeks. "Thanks, Mom. That means everything." We hung up, and Sarah came to me, wrapping herself around me like I was the only solid thing in a spinning world. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." "You did it," I corrected. "You never stopped believing this could work." "We did it together. You, me, Emma, the club, even Mom. All of us choosing to see past fear to what's real." I held her, feeling the weight of the journey we'd taken, from that terrible night in Eleanor's driveway to this moment of hard-won acceptance. It had cost us tears, fights, uncertainty, fear. But the price had been worth it. Because now Emma had a grandmother who understood that family came in many forms. Now Sarah had her mother back without having to choose between her. Now I could stand in my own skin, patch and all, without hiding or apologizing. The Iron Riders had taught me about loyalty and brotherhood. Sarah had taught me about love and partnership. Emma had taught me about joy and presence. And Eleanor, reluctantly but genuinely, had taught me about grace, the kind that comes when someone chooses to see past their own fear to honor someone else's truth. Outside, my Harley sat in the garage, ready for the next ride. The patch hung on my shoulders, earned and worn with pride. Emma slept upstairs, dreaming whatever 4-year-olds dream about. Sarah stood in my arms, solid and real and mine. This was brotherhood. This was family. This was the road that mattered most. Not the highway miles, but the distance we traveled to truly see each other. And we were home.